Hey, good morning, you fine, fabulous book people. It is Well Read Beard, and it is a damn fine day to talk about a book. And today we are here for a book review. We're going to talk about Legion by William Peter Blatty. This is the sequel to The Exorcist. And I keep telling myself I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that. I knew that Legion was at least in some way related to The Exorcist, and I kind of say that to say I'm not really sure why it took me this long to read this book. I love The Exorcist. I love the movie, the book, and again, demonic horror is probably in biblical horror, demonic horror, possession stuff is probably one of my top subgenres of horror. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with my deeply, deeply religious upbringing. But something about it scares me more than like monster shit doesn't do it for me. Something about demonic possession though scares the absolute shit out of me. So, yeah. Um, for me though, this book wasn't great. Like I didn't love this book. It was okay. I mean, it's 250 pages long. Some of the dialogue between our main character, whose name is Kinderman, he's a detective, and then some of the other characters, which he has some involvement with a priest and some psychiatrists and this and that, and that those conversations were I don't know, sloggy for me. I mean, a lot of like back and forth. Like he's kind of like this comedic type guy. Like he keeps talking about his mother-in-law at home who's got this carp in the bathtub because she's waiting to cook this fish, but until she does, he can't take a bath. And I don't know. There's just like mildly comedic stuff like that to me was like dated maybe so much at this point that it just came off as odd. Um, and then there's the side stories of there's a psychiatrist named Amafortis or it's something along those lines. And the things that he, he's doing a lot of stuff on the side that I guess somewhat advances the story. Like he's lost his wife and he's doing all this stuff with like recording voices where there shouldn't be any voices, and there's long swaths of that stuff that while it was interesting it and I even question the necessity of it if that's fair. So let's get some synopsis and we'll talk a little bit more and I'll kind of really nail down the connection that this book has to The Exorcist if the synopsis doesn't do that. So it says, I'm going to take my glasses off. It says, Jesus asked the man his name. He answered, Legion, for we are many. Few works of fiction have ever caught the imagination of so vast a public as did The Exorcist. Now, William Peter Blatty has written a novel that transcends The Exorcist in suspense. Does that mean transcend? Does that mean it's better than The Exorcist? Not true, in my opinion. All right. That transcends The Exorcist in suspense, searing power, and intensity. A young boy, a deaf mute, is found horribly murdered in a mock crucifixion. That's how we start. It's the very beginning. The kindly aging detective assigned to the case sees it not only as a crime, one that calls for all his skill and intuition as an investigator, but as part of a larger and more baffling mystery, whether or not a good God can exist if he tolerates such monstrous evil. Is the murder is the murderer the elderly woman who witnessed the crime, a neurologist who can no longer bear the pain life inflicts on its victims, a psychiatrist with a macabre sense of humor and guilty secret, a mysterious mental patient locked in silent isolation? Those are all questions. I don't know if I pulled that off. As Lieutenant Kinderman follows a bewildering trail that links all these people, he confronts a new enigma. at every turn? Why does each victim suffer the same dreadful mutilations? Why are two of the victims priests? Is there a connection between these crimes and another series of murders that took place 12 years ago and supposedly ended with the death of the killer? To say that Legion is the work of a master storyteller is to state the obvious. It is a novel of breathtaking energy and suspense, but more than this, it is an extraordinary journey into the uncharted depths of the human mind and the most agonizing questions of the human condition. The answers are revealed in a climax so stunning that it could only have been written by the author of The Exorcist, William Peter Blatty. So, our connection to The Exorcist is that I'm going to give you the brief part of it, and then I'm just going to allude that there's a deeper connection. But the connection is that both our detective and one of our priests, they meet every year, I think to watch a film, but to watch a film and have lunch or whatever on the anniversary of Damien Karras, the priest from The Exorcist, the one that took on the demonic possession from Reagan and then jumped out the window and fell down call them the Hitchcock steps. I actually visited those steps in Washington D.C. Very cool. And died, you know, and so they knew Karis and they spend time together on the anniversary of his death or whatever, like in a respect type thing for him. So that is the tie. I mean, it happens in the same place, you know, and there's mention of Damien Karras. And that's kind of it, except for the fact that like later in the book, you know, the connection gets a little bit deeper. But you know, crazy murder scenes. You know, so a small boy that's crucified, a couple priests are killed in two different horrific ways, and all of them have mutilations that are the standard operating procedure of the Gemini killer that supposedly died 12 years ago. So, and some of the details are details that only the killer would know. Like some of the details were even falsely leaked to the press so that they could weed out any people that were coming in to try to claim, you know, for whatever reason, to try to claim, hey, I'm the Gemini killer, you know. So yeah. And but for me, again, so you know, the murder scenes are cool. I mean, you know, if I'm allowed to say that, you know, the murder scenes are one of the more enjoyable parts of the book. But just Kinderman's antics and the way he is, it was a bit of a turnoff for me. And like I said, you know, some of the other characters, the like I said, there was a psychiatrist and a something else, psychiatrist and a neurologist. Just kind of the way they're pulled in, and especially the back and forth dialogue. I mean, it wasn't great for me. Now, the reveal of who the actual murderer is. I mean, look, we're talking about demonic possession stuff. We're talking about Legion for We Are Many. So that might give you a little bit of a hint. You know, the evil in this book is definitely, you know, demonic Legion based. How it's happening, I'm going to leave that up to you to find out. But what I would say is while the reveal was kind of cool, like it didn't. I mean, this is a 248 page book in the format that I read it, which is I believe it's a book club edition hardcover. Um, I mean, the big reveal doesn't really happen until like 200 pages in, and while you're getting some crime scenes along the way that kind of, you know, keep you interested. I mean, like once you get that reveal, then in my opinion, like the way it wraps up, the way it ends was pretty anticlimactic in my, again, humble opinion. So look, it's Legion by William Peter Blatty. It is the sequel to A book I consider, of course, a horror staple. I mean, if you're going to talk about horror books, you got to have The Exorcist in your bag. So, but much like, matter of fact, exactly like the sequel to Rosemary's Baby, which I also loved, the sequel fell super, super flat for me. I would say that this one did not fall as flat as Son of Rosemary, but it's close. So yeah, this has been Well Red Beard. This has been my review. This is Legion by William Peter Blatty. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.